There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. He is currently in the MCC Theater production of Only Gold, but back in 2016, he was in the Broadway revival of Cats as Alonzo. So welcome, Ahmad Simmons, and thank you for joining me.
Hey, so happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you join. I know we've talked to a bunch of your castmates and a few people in Only Gold as well, but we're here to talk a little bit about Cats first. So let's start with your history of Cats. I know you've had a lot of time before 2016 to have seen it because it's been around for so long. So what was your first introduction to the show?
Yeah. I think like many people, that VHS was my intro to Cats. I wore that thing out. I can't actually remember who got it for me, but Fort Worth, Texas, and I definitely still have it actually in a closet. But yeah, I remember when I was getting more curious about dance, like around into middle school, that just sort of appeared. And I remember watching that and seeing Rum Tum Tugger and f***ing out. I was like, wait, what? Who? How? What is like soulful, oddly sexy? Because I was also like, fun. Like thing that's happening. And it was cool because I was really like a singer and wanted to be a pianist and all of this stuff. And it just sort of like melded all those dreams and things together in that moment. And so, fast forward maybe 2 years and Diane Clow West Dance Studio decides to do the prologue from Cats as a part of our recital at the end of the year. And hand painting our unitards and like making our wigs for this like dance recital version of the prologue from Cats. And I was like, okay, that sealed the deal. And that was the introduction for me.
I love it. So what was the age when you did the prologue? Like high school?
I was in high school. Okay. Yeah, that had to have been like junior year.
And how old were you when you saw the 98 movie? Like junior high age?
Yeah, I would say like 13. I remember being pretty young. Yeah.
So that's the fringe area of where I find the show a little fascinating, where you might understand some of the like what the show is actually about. Like there's a lot to it. But if you're too young, you don't get it. If you're too old, like then you kind of get it. I can't believe I'm watching, two people basically have sex on stage, or two cats basically have sex on stage. So did you pick up any of that in the first movie, or was it more of just like you're a dancer and a singer and it's like this combination?
Well, I will say like in the first movie when the idea of like what Victoria was going through didn't like completely register, but I knew what it meant to be sensual.
Yeah.
Knew kind of what that expression in your back was like as a dancer.
Yeah.
And like I said, watching Tugger like roll his hips, I was like, okay, there's something going on here that's just like not what I felt before.
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Yeah. So I kind of got what was going on, but I wasn't to the point yet where I was like really investigating it. It was more of like what it made me feel like.
And so honestly, it's kind of it's honestly what it's kind of like supposed to be. It's like, it's going to go over every kid's head. It's like, oh, it's kids dancing. But then there's this like range where it's like, it's a little confusing and it's a little bit like, all right, I might get some of it, but I don't get all of it.
Yeah.
And so I've been kind of fascinated by that because I do see like the performances I've seen, there's kids everywhere. And I'm like, we're talking about one of the, Cats is basically, the orgy's ball, or the ball's an orgy. Like, all this stuff is, like, very sexual and very aggressive. And, oh, good, there's a 6-year-old kid next to me sitting 3 seats
and they're like, oh, it's a white cat and she's doing the splits. Yay. And then it's like, exactly, that's great.
So did you ever besides that dance number, did you ever do any other, like, singing performances, dancing of it pre-2016?
Okay, funny enough, and sort of cosmic, I got my equity card doing Alonzo in Cats at the Pittsburgh CLO in 2000 and, what was that?
Wow. Okay.
So I went to college at Point Park University in Pittsburgh, and CLO was like right down the street, and it still is a really theater. And I was a dance major in college, so I got very little musical theater training at all. I sort of bulldozed my way into private voice lessons there, but the summers were really my opportunity to like train in theater. So I auditioned the first summer after my freshman year for the Pittsburgh CLO for their summer stock, and got hired. And we did like Cats, Oklahoma, and White Christmas or something. And that was to do it professionally. And we did choreography to the show and to Alonzo, which is just so crazy that like, you know, fast forward however many years and I end up almost 10 years of you doing that same role.
That's fascinating. So you basically got to do original choreography in the choreography.
Yeah, exactly.
With Andy. So
two different Alonzo.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was going to say, I think some of my questions about Alonzo, like what is written more about him is the original choreography, because in that one you with Victoria, right? In some cases that production dances with Victoria in that big number.
Yeah.
In other cases, it doesn't. And I don't think in 2016 you did. Is that correct?
We only had a few things, but it was primarily is Play-Doh in our production that does the, you know, big lift and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wow. So now let's start with Pittsburgh then.
Okay.
I would love to what are you told when you're doing a regional production, a short period of time? What's what backstory, what prep are you gotten about your character?
You know, they're so fast. I mean, we are sort of in rep, right? So you're rehearsing a show during the day and doing a different show at night. And so I see him. How do I not remember his name? I see him and he's so wonderful. Who said it? But he had his own Bible of the show. And so this is where you go. These are the numbers. Like there was not really a ton of conversation about backstory and things like that. They were just like, get the steps out. They sort of assumed that you know what everything was. And, there are certain times with certain relationships, they'd be like, okay, yeah, and you two cats are friendly, and then you two cats don't really like each other, and then you know what I mean? That sort of thing. But in that production, it was really about just getting it up, getting the whole show up in, a week, 10 days. So I didn't get as much of the backstory then. But lots of coaching on the steps for sure, like they hardcore about the original steps.
Yeah, I find that so fascinating and interesting because it's like, how much are you told when you're doing it for such a short period of time? Are you given the whole thing and all the stuff, or is it just like, just make sure you hit this dance number, this mark, and this lyric? This doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely give you some perspective on your cat's way of being, but just so that everybody's not doing the same thing. And I think we did a little bit of cat school, just like a little exercises in the beginning of like rolling around, bringing cat into us. We started with that, but again, it was very body, and less soul in that one.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So let's fast forward to 2016. So you do Pittsburgh, you do original Alonzo. Does that factor in when you're kind of doing this, this audition for the same character? You kind of have some experience in it, or is it just a totally fresh since it's all going to be new choreography anyways?
Well, no. I mean, I definitely am. I see the audition posted because I'd moved to New York, honestly, that year. I was living in Chicago for about 4.5 years in concert dance land. I was dancing called River North, and after I left college, I wasn't doing musical theater at all. So I moved to New York end of 2015, and the audition rolls around. I'm not represented. I don't have an agent. They're dancing with a dance company, and I'm like, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to go. I see choreographing who I'd wanted to work with forever. Hear his name. And I was like, okay, well, this will be my first big Like, why not let it be something that I sort of am familiar with? Like,
yeah.
I hear it's going to be a new production of it, which is, but I at least, okay, I understand what the show is. So, like, let me go. It'll help me be not as so nervous. And that was a complete, because by the time I go in, and there's hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Auditioning for the show. Like, every dancer wanted for this revival. And so, all of that, like, oh yeah, I know this show kind of goes away. Cause I'm like, everybody knows this show. So, you got to dance for your life. And so truly that's what actually within the audition process, like going for, my manager now had seen me perform with Parsons Dance Company, and we had been talking, and, she sort of midway got into the process and was able to get me sort of into the next, which was great. So danced in the open call, got called, and then she was with me from then on, and just started to see it like whittle down a little bit more. Call I remember walking into, it was like all of the guys that you just hear are the most incredible dancers in New York. Like, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh great, there's this guy, I've seen him on TV. Oh my gosh, like what the hell is going on here? And so we do it. Long story short, I get the job and, make my debut in Cats. But I wasn't supposed to be, I'm thinking about it.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, not Carbuckety. One of the younger kittens. How am I blanking on his name?
Tumble Brutus?
No. Oh my gosh, it's gonna kill me. Pounceville.
Okay.
10 minutes later. So, I wasn't Alonzo. So, the first offer I was for Pounceville. And I remember getting that offer. I was judging a competition in Florida and got the call from Lakey saying they were going to offer me Pounceville. And I was like, cool. I really didn't know who Pounceville was. Excited that I was going to. And then I don't know what happened, but like, I think maybe someone had dropped out or, passed on it, saying, hey, they actually want to switch your role to Alonzo. And then that's when I really freaked out. I was like, this is like the one I did. Yeah. And it was really great. So that's all
awesome.
I got.
That's awesome. I hope you're having a jellicle ball. We'll be right back after this quick break. So let's talk now, because you went through the 3 words and all this stuff. I want to talk a little bit about Alonzo. There's not as much published about his backstory, and so there's a few rumor mills. A couple fill in the blanks for us of what were you told? What were the 3 words? I'm going to give you a couple theories that you can tell us if they're true or not.
You're going to jog my memory.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's start with the 3 words and what you were told is like, here's Alonzo's backstory.
I do remember my 3 words. Because I remember they like whispered them to us, like they were secret, like nobody should know. I think Chrissy Cartwright, actually did that. It was bravado and uncertain, which like threw me. So it was like, oh, vain, bravado. Yes. Like I know. Oh, this cat. And then they were like uncertain. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Inner turmoil.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was whispered as my 3 words to play with. And I was, that Alonzo was sort of second in command with Monkestrap.
Okay.
And, would be a great leader at some point if he could sort of get past his own vanity and replace that vanity with some like courage and confidence. Like real confidence, not vanity. I was also told that I was about the same age as Monkestrap. Like we were we're in that generation of cats. Like I wasn't a kid and I was an adult cat.
Okay.
Had seen some things. I was told that I sort of slept around a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, that he was a cat that gets in, with certain folk, himself being the main person, main cat. And what else was I told in terms of backstory? Well, then you're told that, like, at some point he finds his bravery within the show.
Okay, so that's the arc, is through the show you're getting rid of that uncertainty almost. Like, you're figuring out, okay. And so by the end of the ball, you're like, all right, old dude around me, it's time to go so that Monk can take over so I can be next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of I like that the sleeping around piece, because that's gonna bring up a couple questions. So one of the theories is relationships with Demeter.
Yeah.
So so that's something you played into?
Well, you know what's funny is that was actually something that was told to me. I remember being a thing in Pittsburgh in the original.
Yeah.
But in the revival in 2016, I don't think that was so much told to me. I remember like Cassandra being like somebody who I had a little bit more of a connection to.
Okay.
And then there was also something that was just like my inner thing of like wanting to be Victoria, like wanting to be that person too. So like I sort of played into my fascination with Victoria.
It's interesting because it makes sense that Demeter's in because the 98 movie, your role saves Demeter from a cavity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's like it's part of the dance number is part of the act. And so that's kind of where that comes from, but I don't think that happens in 2016. So, and you don't do the Victoria dance in 2016. So there's a little bit of like, okay, where is the relationship there? The other one that's really interesting about that is that, everyone is uncertain with your relationship with Buster Jones. Like, is it uncle? It seems like he shuns you in the 98, the Pittsburgh original choreography.
Yeah. I always thought of him because in the 2016, I'm positioned, they positioned me on the tire, like sort of behind him, like propped up. Mm-hmm. So I always thought of him as, like whether it was like an uncle or some sort of relative, but like I had great esteem for him. Like we're of the same sort of class in my head.
Okay.
Is what I sort of made up. But there was no direction there between the two of us, but I drew that just from the way I was staged in the number.
Yeah. I love that. You have to make your own connections based on like, because there's so much uncertainty. What about Tugger?
Yeah. So I remember the sort of jealousy factor with Tugger being a thing. Like, Tugger just had more swag, and Tugger seemed to be able to to get what he wanted and be reckless and this is probably just me, what I made up, but like I thought Alonzo sort of thought he had to be a certain sort of posh way, and his way into sensuality and getting what he wanted was poshness and ego, where Tugger could just sort of just be and get everything. Yeah. And so that to me, I was like, oh man, like I had a little bit of animosity there, and like, when the cats would squeal for him, I'm thinking like, squeal for me. Yeah. But again, like things that I made up. I don't actually know. What are the myths about those two?
Well, the tie for Tugger is because you take the line terrible bore. Mm-hmm. And so by that, it's like you're dismissive a little bit of him, or at least jealous or some version of that because of that line change. Because that used to be Mistopheles. And that's where in the original production, like all of the Tugger Mistopheles, like being together, rumor mill lives is centers around that. So with you taking it, I think it's interesting. I like what you're saying, which is you have the same bravado, but you're not getting away with it, and he is. Like he's being able to kind of do whatever he wants. Intentionally, and I were,
like the way we were staged in 2016. I remember the terrible bore. Me and Munkerstrap were standing together actually, and looking over at Tugger for that. So we So we both took on the same opinion there.
Yeah, so it's like you're the two people in charge, really. You're still kind of running the show, being like, all right, what's this clown doing out here dancing around? But also a little bit, Munkerstrap is annoyed, and you're like, that could be me.
I want to be him. Yeah.
I love it. And and I think that's a good transition is you did that section with Tyler, who you're working with in Only Gold.
Yeah. Tyler's so much fun, and he was so wonderful in that process. So like I understudied Tugger and Plato McCavities and went on for both of those roles a good bit, and it was cool to just sort of be freed and coached by him, Tyler's definitely a performer that I look up to. He's been in the game for so long, and he's just so great at one, building character, like from scratch, but two, just like liberating himself and therefore like liberating other people in their performance of their characters. And so I remember going on for Tugger and feeling so good and like understanding why that role is so fun for people. It's because it's like doing drag, honestly. Like you get to tap into this other side of yourself that has no reservation, and the way he was choreographed in the revival, I just think just hit so hard. And Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah, he's wonderful in this as well. And it's cool. It's cool. Full circle for us too.
When you went on as Tugger, I feel like part of doing this role so many times a week, you kind of almost embody your character a little bit. Did you almost like take your Alonzo, I want to be Tugger, the way to go on as Tugger? Like, did that kind of come out of like, ooh, I get to finally fulfill his wish?
Yeah, it was like I was on the other side of the glass, though, like in a way of like I got to sort of see Alonzo's eyes. You know what I mean? In this weird way, it's how I kind of thought about it. It's like, oh, now I'm sort of in the bowl.
Yeah.
And it's also cool because with that role, you can conjure up like all the Tuggers that came before, and then also like all of my heroes, like the Ben Vereen's, the Sammy Davises, the like all of those song and dance men mixed with the Terrence Mann, mixed with the, you know what I mean? It's like you could really do a smash burger of all these people and like it still feel really genuine, which was so great and fun to tap into in different ways.
I love it. I think Andy hired every Tugger he could find for Only Gold because he got your understudy, Tyler, Terrence, all doing this. So
all the Tuggers.
Tell me a little bit about the show. I mean, this will be by the time this airs, it'll be a couple weeks in. What can people expect to see with Only Gold? Yeah,
it's really, really, really wonderful because they're calling it a dance musical, which we all feel is just so important. Like, yes, we've been having this conversation about like dance pushing narrative and like, is it abstract? Is it commercial? Da, 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 da. But like, we're finally seeing, with Andy's passion project, Only Gold, that like we are literally sharing the stage, music equally, dance, all of the writing that they've been doing. The lighting is telling a story. The sound design is telling a story. Like every single element is driving the narrative. And like at any point, like you can trade off. You know what I mean? It's like, whereas I think more traditional musical theater, we think of like, oh, feeling is getting too hot, let's dance. Like, no, like we're trying to tell you something super complex and we can do that with our bodies. We don't have a set piece here because we want to do it with our bodies. This light is telling you more about what's happening in this scene than the song, or this song says it all. It completely tells the story, or it's completely abstract and just metaphor. And you just get a feeling like it's beautifully complex and it has so much heart, and you're just gonna hear Kate Nash's like banging music, like she's a full pop star, and like these are some of these songs that you've loved for years, and then you're gonna hear some of her new stuff written just for the show it's so good, it hits. It's just like everybody is the best of the best in this process, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, and it's kind of sounds like an interesting thing of like following three different generations. So you're getting like in that way, it's where when I heard about it the first time, I was like, it kind of feels a little Cat's-ish. You got the oldest, the middle, and the young, and you're gonna get the story from kind of all three of them, the different versions of that.
Yeah, and to me, and that's sort of maybe a theme of like the last new show I did dealt with this sort of like two like older love, more mature love, and younger love, in Hadestown. And like with this, we're also dealing with love at two different points, right? Yeah. Which I think is really interesting, and really just like how to get back to that kernel of what's most important, that love that's most important. Like even as you start to have responsibility and duty and bills to pay and kingdoms to run, like, how do you find that kernel again, that fire? Like, how do you keep that fire going when all of this stuff is built around you? So it's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I am looking forward to seeing it. I think, when we're recording this, it's opening this upcoming weekend. So when this airs, it'll be out for a couple of weeks, but people still have plenty of time. If you're in New York to go see it, we'll link the tickets here in the description. So I want to do a little rapid fire at Cats to get to my final thesis question here. Okay. So it was... the first one would be, if you could play any cat for one night, male, female, doesn't matter if you have the, dance and singing ability or whatever, if you could just go on for one track, who would you want to go on as? Demeter. Okay, give me the why.
Because she's layered. She has a lot going on.
Okay. Yeah, that's an understatement.
Like there's a lot to pull from there. Yeah. She gets to tell a real story.
A very understatement. That's one of the craziest parts of the show that I did not pick up watching it when I learned about it.
Yeah.
A lot happened in there.
Oh yeah.
Who are your favorite and least favorite cats?
My favorite and least favorite cat. Favorite cat is definitely Tugger. Least favorite cat is Carbuckety. He used to get on my nerves. Not the actor, but the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is not actors.
Yeah.
This is purely characters.
Yeah,
what is your
Carbuckety,
favorite
for
song
sure.
from the show?
Ooh. Hearing Jelly sing Gus, Gus's song is really, it moved me every day. Yeah.
Okay. If one cat was to write a new musical, which one do you think would be the best at actually writing and producing a new musical?
I'm going to say Alonzo.
Okay. Very bravado.
Control
Alonzo,
freak.
I love it. I love it. You're leaning in, sticking to it. Okay, my $1 million question, and this is what this whole podcast centers around, but I do not think Grisabella is the right Jellicle choice. And so I would love to know, do you want to defend Grisabella, or if you were old Deuteronomy, or Alonzo getting his chance to make the decision, who are you deciding to go the heaviside layer?
Gus, hands down. Are you kidding me? Absolutely,
Okay.
Gus.
No questions asked, Gus. So give me the reason why. Give me the rationale.
Gus is the one that deserves it. Like, he's lived such a beautifully storied life. He's beloved by all of the cats. He teaches us a beautiful lesson. Like, he deserves to go up there to that heaviside layer.
I want to. I'm all for it. Anytime it's not Grisabella, I'm like, great. Let's move on. I'm in agreement. It's Gus. I think it's the most logical choice. Honestly, I think it's the one that makes the most sense. I want to do a little kind of like thought exercise for you, though.
Okay.
So let's assume that we pick Gus.
Yeah.
Let's assume Old Deuteronomy goes. Monkish Trap gets 1 year. He picks Grisabella. Crazy accident. Now you're in charge. Alonzo's up. It's time to shine. So Old Deuteronomy, Gus, and Grisabella are gone. What's the order of the next couple Jellicle choices you're going to make?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. I think it goes. I think Demeter.
Demeter's first, okay.
And then I don't know how this is going to feel to you, but I think McCavity's misunderstood. I think McCavity's up there too. Yeah.
So
we want to know. You know what? McCavity. I changed my answer about who would write the best musical. It's McCavity.
McCavity would? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
He knows the villain. So, okay, so you're doing Demeter and McCavity back-to-back years. Let them go. Re-explore their history as new cats. Who's after that?
I know. Jelly Lorm's gonna be mad at me, but like, yeah, I would say Jelly. I'll put Jelly next.
Jelly, and then you got to go like Skimble or Jenny, right? Like those are.
Skimble, sure.
Okay,
I would say Jenny before Skimble.
Sounds like there's some animosity with Skimble. What's going on there?
There's just like Skimble for me. You know, it's like, okay, cool. You run this train. We get it. Like, but you didn't let me have any fun on the train. You know what I mean, Alonzo?
Yeah.
So I have a bone to pick with Skimble.
I love how so many of the answers to these questions from your castmates and from you all center around what cat you played. It's like you live that life so long that you're like, I don't like this cat because they shunned me in this stuff. You know, it's like your answers stem from that, and it's funny to hear because it's so consistent. I love it. This has been super fun. How can people keep up with you on social media? How can people, we'll link everything for Only Gold. What else you got going on? Yeah.
You can find me I'm on Instagram at Ahmad Simmons. Pretty simple there. I'm directing this beautiful, fun Halloween concert and dance party benefit for Broadway Cares. So October 23rd at 8 p.m. at Sony Hall. It's an event called I Put a Spell on You, live at Sony Hall. So it's a Hocus Pocus parody show starring my good friend and hometown high school buddy, J. Armstrong Johnson, who's a Broadway star, and a host of other Broadway favorites, Robin Herder, Nick Rashad Burroughs, Alicia Umphris, like some heavy hitters in this show. And there's a costume contest. There's a DJ, so it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna turn into a party at the end. But it's gonna be a huge amount of fun. So that's gonna be great. We got a lot of great choreographers together, and it's all benefiting Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. So you can get your tickets. Go to BroadwayCares.org to find those tickets. And we want to pack the house. Fun event for a great cause. Get spooky. It's very campy. It's funny. Come and get your.
That's amazing. This will be out before, so we'll link everything too, so people can come. That's amazing. That will be awesome. So go see that. Go see Only Gold, and then follow everywhere so you can stay in touch with what's after that.
Yeah, please do. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. This was super fun.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Happy to talk to you.
Awesome. And thanks everyone else to listen to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.